Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. We have an update webinar with Kingfisher Metals. Kingfisher trades on the Venture Exchange under the ticker KFR. For anyone that's new to the story, I would recommend checking out some of the previous webinars, which can be found on the Adelaide Capital YouTube channel or the company's social media feeds, because this really will focus on the 14-hole drill program, which was conducted last summer on the Gold Range project, which the last round of results were just recently announced. With that out of the way, I will introduce Dustin Perry, CEO. Hi, Dustin. Nice to see you.
Hi, Deb. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody who's joining right now. So how I'm going to run through things, I'm just going to go over a little bit about the project, how we approached last year drilling, the results, and then how we are going to approach things going forward. And then I guess we'll answer the questions. All right, so Gold Range is located in Southwest BC. I live in Squamish, BC, just north of Vancouver, and it takes me about 8 hours to drive to site. So it's about 3 hours west of Williams Lake. It sits in a large regional fault network called the Yallacum Gold Belt. It's really anchored by the Yallacum Fault. And good examples of more advanced mineralization and projects within this area would include Braylorn and then the Reliance project that Talisker and Endurance Gold are exploring. Where we are is a much more greensfield area, and that's what we were doing last summer, and what we continue to do is grassroots exploration, first time anybody's ever drilled on this project. So just to locate you on the project, so here's Highway 20 in Tattle Lake. It's about a 30-minute drive to Gold Range on a easy road to a ranch where we have our camp. And the south end of the project is where the majority of our exploration has been focused so far, including all of our drilling at the Cloud Drifter Trend. You can see there are historic mining roads south of here, about 12 kilometers away from the area of drilling. So this is what the Cloud Drifter Trend looks like. All our drilling this past year was focused within the Cloud Drifter zone, which is the western part of the Cloud Drifter Trend. You're looking southeast in this image. This spring and summer, we are going to drill all 4 of these zones. So we're going to come back and focus on the Cloud Drifter zone with the diamond drill early in the season, and then start with an RC drill at Standard, Day Trip, and Langara, actually before the diamond drill in mid-May. So the goal is to hit all 3 of these zones, but also follow up on the really encouraging results we got from our first pass program. What defines the Cloud Drifter Trend is a large geochemical anomaly. We put this together starting in 2000. Did a lot of work that year, a lot of rock samples, confirming and expanding upon a historic soil anomaly, and then some backpack drilling. We took that knowledge into 2021 and tested this system the way we thought was best. That was doing, focusing on areas where we had more geological information, so more outcrop exposure, higher confidence mapping, and just a better model going into it. The results we got from it demonstrate a large gold system. Our upper target, the diorite intrusion, is a little different than what we had hoped for, but from what we've seen so far from the lower quartz diorite, it's really encouraging. Of our 3 headline intercepts, 6.88 grams over 9 meters, 73.4 grams over 1 meter, and 18.69 over 2 meters, 2 of those intercepts, the first 2, are actually from the lower quartz diorite. And we didn't put a lot of meters into that intrusion for several reasons. One, we were focused on drilling a concept that we had for the upper intrusion. But also, as we started seeing really good mineralization lower down the mountain, we didn't actually have the ability to put drill pads down there. We kind of got the runaround from a drill pad contractor, and they would come and go, and it actually resulted in us building the last pad ourselves with geologists. But that had to be in an area where there was no serious falling required. And as you get down the slope, you get into quite a bit bigger timber. So we were hamstringed in that regard, and we just didn't test all of our best targets down there. So a lot of drilling this year will be focused in that area. But one thing to keep in mind is that hit rate we had with the holes down there. This is what the results look like so far. Highlights. The Cloud Drifter Trend has this big geochemical anomaly that we've talked about. Part of the way we targeted our drilling last year was actually chasing down the high-grade areas of soil geochemistry. And one thing we've learned from this is that it gets you in the right area, and it demonstrates that there's a large system here, but you can't use the soil samples as a direct targeting tool. Part of that's because we're on a slope, and you do find mineralization whenever you go to high-grade soil samples. but there must be some weathering effects at play. And as you get lower down the slope with more organic material around, you actually get a much more subdued geochemical signature, but you still get good gold mineralization. And good examples of that would be areas to the east of our drilling where we had really good mineralization and outcrop, but the soil samples were less than a quarter of what they are up the slope. So the big take-home message here is we've hit some really good grades and got a lot of smoke from around this area, but we've only tested a small portion of this 3 by 2 kilometer area. But we've also hit gold mineralization over about 550 meters of vertical extent within this. So that might not be illustrated in this map, but in 3D, you know, we've tested from the top of the mountain to the valley bottom. This is a zoomed in view showing the drilling, and what I was saying about there being a lot of smoke, you can see in this yellow is greater than 0.1 grams and red is greater than a quarter gram. So there's a lot of mineralization in this upper intrusion, which sits where most of the drilling occurred. And one of our beliefs with this intrusion is that mineralization came up the contacts of it adjacent to the sedimentary rocks. And it was a really good environment, really good contrast area of different rock types. So it allowed for fluid to move really well there. But we think it might have moved a little too well, and it didn't focus in one area, and it kind of spread out in a more diffuse manner versus focusing in structural corridors. And that's what we are seeing lower down. Lower down, we're not really seeing the same contact mineralization. We're seeing actual vertical or subvertical structures. The rock type is a lot more brittle, and it seems to be cracking a lot better and creating these vertical structures, which likely are what is actually feeding the upper mineralization, which is vertically above it. You know, we like seeing this much gold mineralization within this upper intrusion because it's got to come from somewhere, and it's coming from at depth. And within the system, as you go down in elevation, we're getting these more vertical structures within the quartz diorites. So the bulk of our drilling this year is going to be following up on the hole 7 intercept and the other intercepts from hole 12 to 14, and then filling in the gap between there and spreading out in either direction. We have a trend right now that's approximately 1,300 meters that these sit in the middle of, and it extends to either side. There's IP anomalies in 3 different locations, one of them being around these 2 samples or 2 drill holes. And there's also a magnetic lineament that crosses that entire area. So that will be the focus of our diamond drilling to start the summer. And then outside of that, we will be testing the other targets, which I'm going to go into now. I mentioned Langara, Standard, and Day Trip. All 3 of these are going to be drilled. Standard Zone is an area where we completed backpack drilling in 2020. And that resulted in, from surface, 6.9 meters of 10.84 grams per ton drilled above historic adit. So we haven't followed that up since, and we will be going in there this year with an RC drill early in the season. So that might be drilled prior to PDAC, if not by the 15th or so of June, most likely. Day Trip is where we're going to start. That's a prospecting discovery that's, you know, we've advanced quite quickly at a pretty low cost, and we're going to be able to drill it at low cost because you can move a track mounted RC drill around up there. And then the Langara Zone, which we'll be announcing some more surface results from soon, has a couple adits on it, a really good geological story we've put together, and we're going to test that as well early season with the RC drill. So this is just a brief overview of Langara. You can see there's a lot of veins, a lot of high-grade samples. Our results to date are up to approximately an ounce per ton. And then a lot of new veins were found this past year. We've extended the area of this anomaly. I believe it's about 400 by 600 meters or so now, with about 350 meters of vertical extent in what we've seen. So with this one, we're going to plunk the RC drill right in the middle of this structural intersection and drill a bunch of different angles, try to figure out with the low-cost drill what the best orientation is, and then step out up the hill with the diamond drill later in the summer once we've got our results back. At Day Trip, I touched on, it was something we found. I went camping there back in 2020 and found it walking along a ridge. It's an area 70 by 90 meters. This highlighted area here, it's got strong geochemical expression in talus fines and also in rock samples. So talus fines across this area outline an anomaly over 450 meters long, grading up to over 8 grams per ton gold. The rock chips in that area from all the subcropping material are grading up to 20 grams per ton. In that area, it's about 20% of that sulfide breccia, which, you know, is similar in appearance to that 6.88 grams over 9 meters from the cloud drifter zone. It's a little different though, because it's right at surface, and it just so happens to have a really nice IP anomaly now directly underneath it. So in this circle, you can see on the right, which is the target area, the white highlighted area in there would be where we have subcropping mineralization, and that happens to line up perfectly with this anomaly right here. These IP profiles go down to approximately 100 meters depth, which is approximately the depth capacity of the drill we're going to be using there. So we'll be able to test this target really thoroughly in about 10 days time with that track mounted drill rig. And this, we've got the drill arriving on the 17th of May. So, you know, we'll know whether we're into something by the time PDAC rolls around, and we'll be able to rush those samples and actually get these results back in a meaningful time frame, given we'll be beating the big rush in BC.
Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on the plans in terms of meters that you're planning to drill this year.
Yeah, so the RC drill is going to start, as I said, May 17th, and we're planning around 2,000 meters with that. It's hard to say. That's more of a time frame that we're planning for that, which will be around a month of drilling. And you know, you can drill up to 100 meters a day sometimes. And then the diamond drill will arrive very end of May or around June 1st. And we don't have a firm number for that yet. You know, the upper limit will depend on financing, but we've already approved with the board with current funds on hand to drill a minimum of 3,000 meters, which will focus on much shorter holes because we'll be putting the pads closer to the area of interest. And that will focus on the 6.88 grams over 9 meters, as well as the 73.4 gram intercept. So the very first hole of the program with the diamond drill will actually go to the same pad where we hit the 73.4 grams and drill directly underneath it, and either direction, east and west.
Can you talk a little bit about your treasury and how funded you are for your upcoming program?
Yeah, so we've got 4.25 million in the bank right now. We're burning around 120 grand a month, which is variable. We could turn that down by turning down marketing if need be, but within that includes the salaries of our 4 full-time geologists in addition to me. In terms of a full budget for the season, I don't know what it will be. I do know that with the constraints of the field season and the way we've modeled things, we think we could get to around 11,000 12,000 meters total with the one diamond drill and the RC drill. For the RC drill only for a month, but with the diamond drill, you know, before the snow flies.
Okay, and I had one question where somebody wanted you to recap the maiden drill holes, intercepts, and true depths. Do you have that available?
Well, I can say what the true depths of the highlight intercepts are. So the last one we just released was at 10 meters depth, and it was drilled at an angle, so it's basically at surface, probably about 7.5 meters depth for that. And then the 9 meters of 6.88 grams per ton, that was at 148 meters depth from surface. So when I said we're going to be putting pads closer, we think we'll be able to hit that with around a 2 to 250 meter drill hole versus a long hole. And then the hole 14 meter of 73.4 grams, that was at 68 meters depth. So that'll be nice following up with that. Won't have to push the hole that long to get into that zone.
Baseline studies on this year. What are your plans on your other 2 projects for the season?
So Axstall, we will be completing things that are required for a permit, such as archaeological survey. That's the plan for this year. We still have results from last year that will be coming out fairly soon. We completed gravity surveys on our top 2 targets there. Shiner, which was something we found after following up on our property-wide VTEM survey, that target has an outcropping VMS with grades 3.27% copper, a little over 2 grams gold, 7.5% zinc, a little over 50 grams silver. It has a conductor that goes to 800 meters depth with it. And now we've completed a gravity survey over that. And we also completed a bit more soil sampling there. And we did the exact same thing at Horsefly, which had historic drilling and some really nice high grade intercepts. I believe 5.5% copper over a third of a meter. But they only pierced a VMS horizon once. They never drilled down dip, and these things pinch and swell. You know, if you tag the edge of it, you could change the inclination by 10 degrees and maybe you get a few meters of it now. So those ones we're getting ready. So they'll be prepped and ready to go drill for next year. And then at Tibbert, we completed airborne magnetic survey and detailed stream sediment sampling across the project. That too will come out in the near future. We haven't defined a plan there for this year. It will take a back seat to Gold Range, and we're exploring the best options for how to move that project forward while you know, not using too much capital or manpower.
And given securing rigs can be difficult, how can you be sure you'll be able to get them without making commitments now?
Oh, we lined that up a long time ago. We secured a drill in right at Christmas, basically. So we've got a diamond drill for the year and potentially a second one if we wanted. And then we also have the RC drill, which is a RAB drill. They're going to retool it to do RC, which is a better form of drilling. It costs a little bit more, but it's a higher degree of confidence with the sampling technique.
Okay. And then I had a list of questions that were sent in advance and just put in the Q&A again. So I'll just run through those with you, Dustin, if you don't mind. So how does the change of deposit type impact on the actual project plans and timelines?
So I wouldn't say that there has been a change of deposit type. You know, we haven't thoroughly tested this yet. There's a lot of different styles of mineralization within the cloud drifter trend. One of the things we were most excited to test was this lower quartz diorite, which we just weren't able to get to because we lost our pad builders midsummer. So I think there's still potential for much bigger widths with high grade material, and I think that would be in the quartz diorite. But we're also seeing really high grade potential where we've got the 73 gram material. You know, it looks really reminiscent of the 9 meter brachiated intercept we hit. Texturally, it looks really similar. So a focus really is going to be going after that kind of grade and trying to extend the widths of it, because you know, it's a lot easier to add width than it is to add grade in a system. You can't make grade up.
What are the changes moving forward to adjust to the different vein type system found by recent drill holes?
I don't see how there's going to be a dramatic difference in how we drill this. We have engaged some experts and another geophysical expert to try to extract as much as we can out of our data while we're drill targeting right now. But I don't think it's going to dramatically change how we drill target. I just don't really see that. We've got really strong targets that we're going to test. You know, we've got all the geological, geophysical, geochemical layers in place, and it doesn't really change how you test it at this point. It might change how you drill things down the road, but for now, it's not really changing anything.
Okay, and you gave your burn rate, but what's the burn rate per month on admin costs only?
Well, that is the full G&A, but that includes our geological staff, which you can pay for most of that with flow through in the summer. It'll be a lot less than that.
And the other question was how much cash is planned for moving the project forward versus admin costs?
So ideally,
depends on your budget.
Yeah, so if G&A is around 1.5, I would hope to spend 4.5 on exploration this year. Obviously, we don't have that in the bank right now, but there's a lot of time between now and say midway into the field season when we might need more funds to expand the program. You know, we don't have a financing plan at this moment, but the way the gold market is moving, once we see some share price reaction to that, you know, we'll be able to be opportunistic. But we don't have our back up against the wall because we do have funds to start drilling, and theoretically we'll be able to get some results out early in the season here.
Okay, and then taking a step back and looking at what you were hoping to achieve in the summer of 2021 and reviewing the results that you've gotten over the past couple of months, where do you think you sit with that? Do you think that you've achieved what you wanted to do in your initial pass? Like, what would, and the second part of that would be, what would be a success for 2022 in your eyes?
Yeah, no, we're very thrilled with the results. Everybody within the team has different expectation levels. And then the non-geologists have share price expectation levels. Obviously, I don't like where the share price is right now, but from an exploration standpoint, it's not easy to go out and drill something that's never been drilled before. You know, a long ways from anything that's been drilled before and come up with grades like 73 grams per ton. It's highly unusual. So I'm really excited with that. The fact that we're getting a lot of gold mineralization around and everything checks out indicates, and strong alteration as well, indicates that we're in a really big gold system. You can kind of extrapolate because you see similar mineralization styles across the cloud drifter trend and beyond, such as at Day Trip. So I think we've got our hands on a really special project. It just needs more drilling. Like any structural system, they're not easy to prove up. They do take a fair bit of drilling. So in terms of what would be a favorable or a success this year, well, I'd like to find evidence of good mineralization at the other zones, at least a few of them. But then I'd also like to see more consistency to high grade, theoretically mineable grade, mineable width type intersects at the cloud drifter zone. So stepping out from the area we already drilled, I would like to see more mineralization around that area. But I don't think committing to or expecting to hit every single ore shoot on this pass either would be realistic, but hopefully we tag into a couple. It looks like we are into one with the 73 gram material.
Exciting. Well, congrats on the initial program. Like you said, it's not easy to hit gold as much as you did on a first pass. So congrats on that. Dustin, is there anything else that you wanted to cover on the webinar? Anything you wanted to touch on that we didn't discuss?
Yeah, I think one thing I'll add to that, just what we were saying about the difficulty of hitting good mineralization on a grassroots program. One thing to keep in mind is this project, it had some hand mining in the 1930s by prospectors, but no real geological information came out of that. And then Ross Beatty's first company, Equinox Resources, did very limited mapping and some good soil sampling and a bit of rock sampling, but they still didn't really put it together. And then we picked it up in 2000 and we did about 5 or 6 weeks of work with a crew of 4 that summer. And then we drilled it this past year. So it's gone very quickly from nothing to that. So as we get more drill information to start to understand this better, our odds are increasing with every field season. So I think that really does highlight that it is really significant to hit grades like that on a first pass.
Great. Well, I agree. And I think it's been really interesting to see how you've rolled out the past year, the program. Like, it's been exciting times. You've done a really good job, I think, of keeping the market informed of what you're doing. If anyone that's interested in the story that's not following Kingfisher on social media, definitely should, because you get a lot of great pictures, great insights from what's going on at site once they get back up to site. Yeah, I think it's a really exciting project. There's not a lot of really, really exciting grassroots exploration projects that I'm seeing. A lot of stuff that's in the market right now is, being delineated, or they're on a, being reworked by a different group or whatever. But it's exciting to see something brand new, like in our backyard too. It's not that far away from where you and I both live. So I find that pretty exciting. And somebody has a question. How are you thinking about keeping costs in check, knowing the high cost per drill hole because of the need to fly equipment in?
Well, that's why you put a lot of emphasis on targeting and really just picking your best drill targets. We will have pad builders on site this summer for a good chunk of the summer. We're going to balance the cost of having them there with the needs, but having them there and the fact that we were able to secure that in advance, which is probably one of the biggest Achilles heels across the province last year for a lot of people I talked to. Having that allows you to move the drill on the fly a lot more appropriately and not have to drill long holes like we did last year. So I think the best answer to that would be trying to drill shorter holes and more of them, and testing more areas. In terms of helicopter costs, it's hard to limit that too much. It's a kind of a fixed cost. Luckily, we've got good weather, so we don't pay standby time. We haven't had any standby time in 2 years, whereas I've had summers in the Golden Triangle where I haven't seen the sun. So yeah, drill shorter holes, I guess.
And baseline, really quality baseline analysis work for picking targets.
Exactly. Yeah. We got a lot out of presenting our drill core at Roundup. Actually, our VPX scale Febo is well respected in the academic and BC exploration community, and she had a lot of really smart people, a lot smarter than me, coming by and asking a lot of questions. And some people saw similarities with different systems. One person actually thought there was a lot of similarities with SNP, which was interesting. There's a lot of, when you share data with other people, you can get a lot of feedback and kind of incorporate it, and everything's just ongoing process of refining your drill targets.
Do you happen to have some of your core pictures handy that you can put up on the screen for us?
Oh, I don't have
Putting you on the spot. But I know that they're on your social media feeds as well.
Yeah.
And I think you put them in a press release.
They are in a press release that came out during Roundup. So Feb 2nd, I believe. It was the 73 gram intercept has photos that we displayed at Roundup.
And I had one more audience question, which is, do you expect to retain all the prospects, or could you monetize one or two to allow drilling of the others? How do you think about your portfolio of assets?
So the goal with Xstall is to bring in a partner. That's been the goal basically since we realized how solid of a project Gold Range was. We stopped spending a lot of money there. And so the focus will be to get that in somebody else's hands. Luckily, the claims are in good standing until over another approximately 2 years, I believe. So we can keep on waiting here, wait till the copper market gets even hotter, and hopefully get that into somebody's hands in time for next summer. But we wanted to get the drill permitting done on that so that it'd be ready to go. It would make it a lot more attractive and more valuable. Tibbert, though, I don't see us getting rid of it at this point. It's low holding costs, and it's pretty darn encouraging. And I wouldn't want to be a single asset company.
We have a great asset. Do you want to leave us with a couple of final comments just to round out what you're trying to do with Gold Range?
Yeah, so it's pretty obvious now, or it should be, that we have a pretty extensive gold system on our hands, and we're just starting to put the puzzle together, really. This year, we will be going at it a lot more de-risked, because we can go follow up on the high grade. We've identified a corridor lower down the mountain of really good mineralization. But in addition to that, it's kind of like you get multiple scratch and win tickets here, because we're going to go hit Standard. We're going to hit Day Trip, and we're going to hit Langara all early season before they even start drilling in the Golden Triangle. So this will be a story to keep your eyes on early in the season, but then throughout the season. And hopefully we'll have some news flow before the majority of other people do in BC.
Yeah, sounds like you're going to have a long program for the region, which is great. And one more audience comment, which is, you and your team are doing a great job, and I have to agree. Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Thanks everyone for participating. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Dustin. We'll get those answered for you. And yeah, appreciate everyone taking the time this afternoon. Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, Deb.